Welcome to the Finance Marketing Podcast, a show that empowers finance professionals to market their businesses in ways that feel good and actually achieve results. I'm your host, Hillary. I've been working with folks in financial services to develop marketing strategies that work and create results-oriented marketing content since 2020. And I've learned a lot about what works in finance marketing, what doesn't work, and where financial services pros get stuck. Join us each Friday as we explore real, effective ways to market your finance business and connect with folks who truly embody your ideal clients. Today, I am thrilled to welcome Phil Weiss to the podcast. Phil founded Apprise Wealth Management after a diverse career that began in 1987 as a tax professional for Deloitte. For the past 25 years, he has worked extensively in personal finance and investment management, bringing the impressive credentials of a CFA charterholder, CPA, and registered life planner to his practice. Now, Phil and I actually met through Rob Brown, his coach, who was also on the podcast in May, discussing how he helps advisors grow practices aligned with their core values. So Phil and I came together to work on a chapter for the forthcoming second edition of More Than Money, Real Life Stories of Financial Planning, which is edited by Shanna Dew, Taylor Schulte, and Justin Castelli. Now, for his chapter, I helped him reposition and showcase a really compelling case study about his financial life planning process and a client who went through that process with him. And we had a really great time collaborating on that project. And as I learned more about him, I knew I had to invite him onto the podcast. His journey to finding his niche, which is women facing new beginnings, is both powerful and personal. And I felt it really demonstrated how important it is to spend time and reflection in the niching process rather than just picking a niche out of a hat, so to speak. So in other words, Phil's experience demonstrates how when your niche is reflective of your personal experiences and values, it is so much easier and more natural to build connections with them, both in the client relationships that you develop and in your marketing. So whether you're still searching for your niche or you have a niche, but you feel like you're not really connecting with them effectively, Phil's approach offers really valuable insights for financial advisors at any stage of the niching process. So without further ado, let's dive in. Well, Phil, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the Finance Marketing Podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. And thanks so much for having me today, Hillary. How are you doing?
I'm good, and I'm really looking forward to our conversation. I've so enjoyed the conversations we've had previously and learning about the work that you do. So I think other people will enjoy hearing that as well. Can we start by just getting a quick overview, kind of who you are, how you got into this industry, who do you serve, all that good stuff?
Sure. So I am a financial advisor, but that's not where I started. I started my career, I was a tax professional. I worked for Deloitte. I started doing all kinds of taxes. I ended up specializing in international corporate tax. And it was a lot of planning. And if you used to hear the stories about companies that had money trapped overseas, that was the kind of planning that I did because the tax system back then was different and the US rate was higher and a lot of the foreign countries were lower. And we would do things to try to some of the work would involve how we got the money back in an efficient way, but sometimes it did get kind of trapped and it would get redeployed into other foreign operations. But I got to the point where I really didn't like that work. I didn't really feel like it had redeeming value. There are times when how a company shuffles paper around, I would say it increased the size of the national debt because like you could change where title passes on a good that transfers between the US and a foreign jurisdiction. And that has a big impact on how it's treated for tax purposes. And I just didn't feel like that was what I wanted to do. So as I left international tax, near the end, I was writing for the Motley Fool. They used to have online portfolios and I helped manage one. And somebody told me about the CFA. I'm like, I could get a CFA and that'd be my ticket out of the tax department. So that's what I did. And I actually worked as a writer and an editor for T. Rowe Price while I was making the transition. And then I was an analyst and I covered energy stocks, oil and gas companies like Exxon, Schlumberger, which is a service company. Those kind of companies were in my universe. And got my CFA and said, I want to be an analyst. I'm like, well, you have the right credentials, but you didn't get them in the right order or the right place, whatever. So you have to take like 3 steps back and I'm like, yeah, I got a family. That's not going to work.
Right.
So I went out and I did a research report on a company, and it helped me get a job as an analyst. And I covered, like I said, oil and gas stocks for 7 years.
Mm.
And then I left there and I went to work for another advisor where my job was really focused on the tax side. I'm sorry, on the investment side.
Mm.
And it just wasn't really the right fit. So that's when I tell people I got tired of working for idiots. So I decided to be the idiot and start my own firm. And I started my firm, it was technically 2017, but it was 2018 that I really made it my main thing. And it took me a while to realize that it was year 3. That's when I really realized that I had a real business.
Okay.
And so in terms of who I work with, so my niche is women facing new beginnings.
Mm-hmm.
And let me tell you how it came to be. Because it wasn't, I originally started, I thought I'm going to work with healthcare professionals because I work for a lot of pharmaceutical companies and things like that as a tax person. So growing up in my house, it was the typical model that you hear about where my father was responsible for the finances. My mother was responsible for taking care of my sister and I. But here's the thing. When it came to managing finances, my father wasn't good at it at all. We had unpaid bills. We had services turned off. We had no savings. He just had no idea what he was doing. And when I got my driver's license, I remember going to like local utility companies and places like that to give them money so that our services could be turned back on. It just wasn't great. When it was time for me to go to college, I was told, go anywhere you want. So I'm like, okay. I went and visited Duke and I fell in love with the campus and the school, and I wanted to be a doctor and I was a psych major. I thought it was a great place for me to go. But with the benefit of hindsight, I probably should have known this, but when you're 18 years old, you don't really think that way.
Right.
So I went to Duke and I did a lot to stay in school. I met with the president of the university to work things out for a while. But at the end of my junior year, I was 6 courses. Duke was 1 credit, 1 course. So I was 6 courses short of graduation. But I owed the school a good amount of money, and we agreed that I would leave and pay it off, and then I could come back. When I was ready to come back, I actually moved when I was out of school, and I moved to Tucson. It was a toxic environment. I didn't really want to be at home. So I moved out there when I was ready to go back to school. I don't know that I have good enough grades to go to medical school, and a psych major. I'm just going to go to more graduate school, and I can't really afford that. So I decided I was going to get an accounting degree. But Duke doesn't offer accounting degrees. They want you to get your like a liberal arts degree and then go get your MBA. And I'm like, yeah, that's not going to work. So I had residency in Arizona from living there, and I had residency still in New Jersey from my parents. And I decided to get a better job coming out of Rutgers. So I moved back home and went to Rutgers and finished school there. It still wasn't easy. I paid for tuition. I paid for rent with the credit card checks that you get. Mm-hmm. I ended up school and I had a good amount of debt. And I looked at it and said, oh my God, I don't make enough to pay this kind of interest. And I put together a plan to pay it off. I like the one where you pay the highest interest rate balance first and then attack the next. Mm-hmm. And I did that even faster than I wanted because I had the good fortune to be set on an out-of-town assignment, which had 2 6-week stretches. And while I was doing that, that meant I had I earned a lot of extra money, so I could use that to pay off my debt. While all this was going on, my mother went back to school and she became an occupational therapist. And I know that she really did that to be able to be on her own. But she was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer, and that's when we found out how bad the situation really was. The one thing that I left out is that when I finished school, I moved back home for a while. And one day I came home and I got the mail, and there were these credit card bills with my name on them. There's only one problem. They weren't mine. My father forged my name because he couldn't get credit. I got one of the companies to send me the application. I knew it was his handwriting. So after I got that, I was ready to confront him, and I was paying rent to my parents. So I said, I'm going to pay these balances off. And then I called the banks. They just moved them into his name. So when my mother was sick, that's when we realized how bad the financial situation was at home. Those credit cards now were all in collection. My parents were going to have to sell their house and move because the mortgage was over, was in potential foreclosure. This was while my mother was dealing with her treatment. I
Wow.
did what I could to help, but unfortunately, my mom didn't make it.
Mm.
She passed away 18 months after her cancer had metastasized to her brain. And so now I view the work that I do as trying to help other women avoid or not go through the kind of things that my mom did. So that's why I work with women facing new beginnings. And in addition to being a CFA and a CPA, I'm also a registered life planner, and that's experiential training. So one part of my life planning training is one part of my life plan, I'm sorry, is that I have decided that I want to create a scholarship for women who go back to school later in life, like my mother did, to help them out. And I've started to put some money away for that. I explored a couple avenues to do things. I didn't like them. I went back to the school my mother went to. I went to the New Jersey Occupational Therapy Association. I didn't like the answers I got from either one of them.
Mm.
So I'm going to do this on my own. So I've opened up an account. I've started to fund it. And when I feel that I have enough critical mass in that account that I can make sure that this is something that I can sustain, because this isn't meant to be a one-time thing,
Okay.
then I will formally put something in place and have a way for people to apply for it. And that's one of the elements of my life plan.
Wow. Well, what a great story. And I think it makes so much sense about why you serve the niche that you do, right? Because I think a lot of people could look at you and say, well, you're a man. Why do you want to serve women? But your story makes so much sense. Do you find that when you're connecting with your audience, do they have those questions for you? Do you find yourself sharing your story pretty often?
Sometimes they do, and if they do, then I know it's time to share my story,
Mm.
because I know, just like you said, I think that that helps them understand. Like I've had people say, "Oh, now I get it. That makes sense."
Right.
But the truth is, it happened on its own. Like I said, I went and I thought I was going to work with healthcare professionals,
Mm.
and I don't think you can make a niche. I think you have to let your niche find you instead of trying to find your niche on your own. And one of my friends, she said to me, "Phil, I think you should work with more women." And I'm like,
Mm.
"Really? Why?" And she told me why. I'm like, "Okay, I kind of get that." And I'm like, thinking off the top of my head of my client base. I'm like, "Yeah, that's like a third of my client base." It wasn't. It was somewhere between a half and two-thirds. So it kind of happened on its own,
Wow.
just developed. And then as I thought about it, I realized that when my mother passed, I really wanted to do a scholarship for her then, but I
Mm.
wasn't in financial position to do it. And we got a little bit of money, but it wasn't enough that it could be something sustainable. So I'd kind of forgotten about it. And then when I was going through the life planning training, and there's things that you think about your early money memories and other things like that. And there's all these exercises, and do the exercises per se, like write them down, but I would think about them. And that's when I remembered this, and it fits so well. And when I did my life plan, I knew that that's something I wanted to be part of it.
Mm, mm. Well, I want to absolutely talk about the life planning and what a life plan is. Before that, I would love to circle back to you said you started this business in 2017, and it took about 3 years until you really felt confident. Okay, I have a business here. Where did the niche finding you play a role in that? Was that after you felt like you had a business? Was that happening during those initial first 3 years? How did that come to be?
I, so it really, I wasn't thinking about, like I said, I went in thinking this is where my niche is going to be. And when you're starting, it's kind of like, you'll take anybody, right? Even
Right,
if you think you have a niche, you're going to take anybody, because I had some savings that were able to get us through, but I don't want to eat into all my savings, and you have to
right.
make money, and I have a family and all those things. So I had used Zoe Financial, they're a solicitor, and they helped me in terms of finding clients. And like the COVID year, that's the year that I knew
Mm.
that I really had a business. And that was the year before it started. My wife said, "Okay, this is it. If it doesn't happen this year, you're going to have to go back to work for somebody." And like by the end of the year, we both knew that this was the right thing.
Mm.
But it was during that time, so sometime in the 2021 frame, that my friend said that to me. This was
Mm.
somebody that we used to have, she and I and another friend, we would try to do some marketing, help each other out and share ideas and stuff like that. And she said that to me. So I want to say it was 2021,
Mm.
probably as we were coming on the back half of COVID, that she
Uh-huh.
said that to me. And that's when I looked and said, "Yeah, that really makes a lot of sense." And then I actually I worked with Kaleido Creative to
Right.
help me put together the page on my website, like the homepage on my website, which says I work with women facing new beginnings, and some of the other things that I've done to really refine it. Because I'm like, I really want to lean into this, and that's how I want to do it. And like, that's what brings me joy, is to be able to help, these women facing new beginnings to be able to approach their future with a lot more confidence, and to see what can be out there for them.
Well, I'm really struck by this phrase. I really love this phrase, women facing new beginnings, rather than something like women facing or women in transition, going through life transitions, or, women experiencing divorce or things like that.
Mm-hmm.
The new beginnings phrase feels very intentional to me.
It is. And I'll tell you a funny story about that. So when I was working with Kaleido, Kristen is the woman that I was working with, and we were talking about it. And she said, Phil, when I'm wondering about this word, transitions, because it was going to be women in transition. She said, I'm like starting to go through menopause and all this kind of stuff. And when I think of transition, that's what I think of.
Yeah.
And I said to her, and here's the other thing, when I was doing some of my research around the niche, you come up with a lot of LGBTQ stuff.
Right.
And again, it's not that there's anything wrong with either one of those things, but that wasn't who I was really focusing on. And so we said, we have to come up with something different. And that's how Women Facing New Beginnings came about. And I will tell you too, that there's another designation that I'd like to get at some point, called a Certified Financial Transitionist.
Mm-hmm.
And the woman who heads that program, I was at a conference that she is, a life planning related conference. And when I said that that's what my niche is, oh, that's so good. That's so much better than what everybody else uses. Plus, it's different.
Right. I've worked with several financial coaches and advisors over the years who are interested in helping people through these life transitions, right? And that's what we've landed on in the past is life transitions and things like that. There is something very different and hopeful about new beginnings. So I love that branding that you've kind of carved out for yourself.
Thanks. And that's exactly it. It's much more optimistic.
Right.
It's a much brighter way to look at it, right? That's the key.
Right. Absolutely. Because then I imagine you attract women who are excited about their new beginnings, or at least feeling hopeful, rather than clients. I mean, and maybe you attract both, and you can help both, clients who are experiencing a lot of sadness and grief around their transitions as well. But hopefully, the work you do with them can help lessen that sadness and grief.
It can. And that's especially where the life planning comes in, because so life planning, it's a process, and it's not me planning your life at all. Like, I record the majority of my calls, and I know the recording tool that I use tells me how long I talk. I do life planning meetings. I talk 20% of the time at most. Some clients, it's less than 10, because I'm really there to help facilitate their thought process and to ask them some good questions that they can think about. And it's their life, and it's really aimed at helping you to find those things that are really meaningful and matter to you. Because at the end of the day, if you can find those things, you're going to live a happier, more fulfilled life. So you're right. It can be somebody that's, it can be either somebody that's feeling good, excited about the transition, or somebody that's like, I don't really know what I'm going to do. And I'm like, well, let's go through this process and see if we can figure it out.
Is this something that you added to your credentials after you chose the niche?
Yes, it is. But I thought it fits so well with the niche, because I think it's such a good thing to think about when you're going through a transition.
I agree. And, I often talk to advisors who want to lead with their credentials. They want their marketing to really be about their credentials and their expertise and their experience, but that's not usually what connects emotionally. But I actually think that in your case, it's a very intentional credential. Would you call it a credential?
Yes, it is.
That you have? Yes. Okay, great. And it's perfectly suited to this niche as well. How has that been received?
For the vast majority of people, it's received pretty well. And for the people that have been through it, it's had some really positive outcomes, I believe.
Could you share an example?
Sure. And you know this one because I wrote a chapter about this experience for a book that it's a collaborative effort among a number of advisors. But I have a client, and I've been working with her for a couple of years, and I came back from the middle part of my life planning training, and I got this email from her, and it said, Phil, I took a leave of absence from work. I don't know what it means for my financial plan. I don't know if I'm ever going to go back. I don't know anything, but I had to do this. And I called her and I talked to her and I said, what's going on? And I know a lot more now than she told me then. But as she started talking, I'm like, and I was new to it, but I'm like, let's try life planning and see I think it could help. Mm-hmm. And she's like, okay. So we did. And we worked on her life plan. We went through it, and not everything that she laid out in her life plan is going exactly that way, but it just helped her see the possibilities. So she's no longer at the job that she had. That was a really tough place to work. It was not a good place for her at all. When she took her leave, she would be up until 1, 2, 3 in the morning, sometimes talking with one of her daughters who just started college and was having a lot of things that she wanted some help with. That's hard to do when you have a full-time job. Mm-hmm. She has a mother who's got dementia. Her father has some other health issues, and they're not married. They're divorced. Her mother is in Wisconsin. Her father is in Georgia. She helps them. She takes care of all the finances in the family. They have 2 rental properties. They have another home that's the retirement home. She tries to manage all those things. So she's very busy.
It's a
lot going on, but now she's doing the things that she wants. And then about a year after we started her life plan, and this is the best part of the story, I get another email from her, and she says, so Phil, when I was in my 20s, and now she's in her 50s, early 50s, and she lives outside Chicago, and she says, I go to Cubs games. And I would see these little old ladies there, and they'd be taking tickets or working as ushers or whatever they were doing. She said, I want to do that someday. So she goes, so I went on the Cubs website and I applied for a job. I go in for my interview. I'm wearing my Cubs World Series t-shirt, my Cubs jersey. And there's all these young kids there. They're not dressed like me at all, but we're all going for the same job. She goes, I got the job. She goes, I don't know how long I'm going to last. There was a concert that was going to be there. And she's like, I want to at least make it to the concert so I can work the concert. Well, she made it through the whole baseball season. She was hoping to get a replica World Series ring, but the Cubs didn't win the World Series. They did the Winter Classic hockey game on December 31st in Wrigley Field. She worked then. She's actually back again this year. And not because she's making not that she doesn't need the money, but not that she's making a lot of money. She goes, I spend most of it on souvenirs and travel and whatever else. Right. But she goes, I'm building these wonderful experiences. Mm-hmm. And it was going through the life planning helped her change what she wanted to do. She told her friends, I went out to meet with her and some of her friends for a kind of group session that we did. She told her friends that working with me changed her life. She's got a brother that's got some serious health issues. I'm trying to help with that. So is she. In the middle of all that, she said, thank you. I'm going through all this now, but I've had all these wonderful experiences. I think the fact that she's done that too, I think it makes it a lot easier in a way to go through those, because she's still not neglecting herself, even while she's trying to manage all these other things. Right. I'm connected to her on Facebook, and when she does different things at Cubs games, she will post and, hey, I'm going to be in section whatever it is today. She'll do that. Or these other trips. Their second daughter is just graduated from high school this month. She's been taking on trips. Actually, she and her husband and his daughter I live outside of Baltimore, and they came to Maryland and DC, and my wife and I met the 3 of them for brunch, because we become friends as well. And it's just such a great relationship. She knows I have her back.
Right. And I'm sure for you, coming from the background that you came from in the tax world and then the investment world, I'm sure for you that feels so much better too.
Oh, so much better. And that's actually one of the things that motivated me to go through the life planning process, is because, look, I'm a CPA, I'm a CFA. That's all like book and knowledge stuff. It's not people skills. And getting to know my clients is my favorite part of what I do.
Mm.
And now I have a real way to do that. And not only that, as an advisor, I want to be a fiduciary for my clients. I want to make sure that I have their best interests at heart. Well, if I've done their life plan, I know what matters to them. It's so much easier to make recommendations in their best interest after we've been through life planning.
Right. That's such a great point. You have to know what their interests are in order to prioritize their best interests.
Yes.
So how I mean you have this great credential that brings meaning to your work and to your clients. You have this niche that you connect with on an emotional level because of your background. How are you connecting with them? How are you finding with new clients? And tell me a little bit about what you do to market yourself.
So there's a few different things, and some things work better than others, and some things I'm trying, and we'll see how they go. One thing that's hard about being a guy that's trying to work with women is I'm a guy, and a lot of the groups that women belong to, they don't want guys.
Right.
So there's the idea to go to where your client is. It's harder to do that. So I have a firm that I'm working with, and they're booking me on podcasts that women would listen to. Like one of the ones that I just did was Divorce Doesn't Suck. I had a really nice interview, and actually now believe it or not, I'm going to help sponsor that podcast.
Wonderful.
So I'll get a commercial every time, and my episode will air, and there'll be some other things that happen. But I've done widowhood podcasts, I've done divorce podcasts, I've done some for empty nesters, some around retirement, because all those are, most of the clients that are going to come to me are really going to be divorce and widowhood. But
Right.
empty nests, I mean, I work with a lot of clients that are going through empty nests and retirement, especially when you layer in my tax background and my knowledge and how applicable that becomes. That's really helpful, so that all those are niches, but I mean, part of my niche, but I want to make sure that I go where my clients can be. So that's one thing. The other thing that I'm doing is, when I was an analyst, I did a lot of TV and things like that. So I'm comfortable with video and all that kind of thing. And I have the same firm that's helping me to get on podcasts. They're doing some things for me where actually I met with them earlier today, and we record some videos, things. And so it's going out on social media. Like that's
great.
part of it. And, there's some like lead magnets and that type of thing that go with it. I also blog every week religiously. I have like 3 different forms on my blog, and I kind of rotate from one to the next every week. In my blog out there, one of my COIs, who's actually really interesting, when I was going through the life planning training, after you get through the formal training, you have to do a 6-month mentorship. And we have to do a case study. And so one of my COIs volunteered to be my case study. And so we did that, and we realized during that process how aligned we are in our thinking. She's an executive coach who works with a lot of women, and she thinks about things and very similar to how I do as a life planner. So she really only wants to recommend me when she has somebody that she's working with that needs a financial advisor. And I'm more than happy to recommend her when I have clients that need an executive coach. But we're going to do a joint webinar in June.
Oh, okay. That's great. I would love to help you promote that.
We can talk about that.
That's great. What would you say of those things that you're doing? What is the one that works the best?
Honestly, right now, what's working the best is none of those things that I just mentioned, because it's the referrals that I'm getting, whether it be from clients or my COIs. Like that's been, because these other things, like the blog is a long tail thing. You can't expect that you're going to regularly get people reaching out, but when people look you up, it's great. And I make sure that I share something about me a lot of times too, because I want people to understand who they might be working with. And like, you can go to my website, you can find my life plan. It's there. Like, people tell me their life plan, I'm going to share mine. It's fine. I think it's fair. I have a client that I started working with, and one of the exercises that I gave her for the life planning work, she didn't fill it out in a way that made sense to me, and she wasn't sure what to do with it. So I said, here's my goals for life. Not that your goals and mine have to in any way match, but it can give you some ideas as to what we're trying to accomplish with this. Like I said, if you share with me, I'm fully transparent in all that I do. I'm very happy to share with you.
Well, I have to imagine that that helps people feel more comfortable as well. I mean, this is vulnerable work. And when one person shares, then the other person feels more comfortable sharing themselves as well. So that sounds like a really smart approach from multiple different angles.
Thank you. I mean, I think that's why I'm comfortable sharing my story too, right? Because that there's also some vulnerability that you express right up front when you're meeting somebody new. And like I've had people that I talk to, and kind of like how you said, like they can feel the emotion of my story. I mean, actually, I got an email from somebody last night who found me, and she said she read my story and she identified with it, and she wants to talk to me about working together because it's out there. Like you can find my story. There's a blog I have called Confessions of a Financial Advisor, and it's got that whole story in it.
Mm. Well, Phil, I don't know if you thought about it this way, but I just want to comment on your approach, if I can have your permission to do that.
Absolutely.
I think what you're doing with your blog is exactly the right thing to do in today's world. I think that, 3, 5, 7 years ago, people were using blogs to get found on search engines, right? And so they were considering it kind of their top of funnel content. People could find them who had never heard of them before. And today that's largely going away because of AI overviews and things like that. But it's still important to have a blog because it's a way for people to get to know you. You just have to think about it as people are finding you somewhere else, and your blog is now some of your middle of funnel content, if you will. It's where
Mhm.
they're looking to find out more about you. So the fact that you're sharing personal things in your blog, I think is probably so smart, and it helps people feel like they know you a little bit. They start to trust you, and that helps them get comfortable to click that book a call button and start a relationship with you.
Thank you. That's kind of how I think about it. That's why
Yeah.
I decided I wanted to. Yeah, probably when I started, I occasionally I would do something where I shared, but now I
Mhm.
do more. And it's not that I'm trying to make the blog about me,
Right.
but I just look if you look at my story beyond the stuff with my mom, like I went through a lot, right? So if you're looking for an advisor, like I've experienced a lot of things,
Right.
and I think that helps too. Instead of some people who haven't, I think that makes a difference too.
Right. I don't think a lot of people want to work with an advisor who's done everything right because they're going to worry that they'll be judged for some of their decisions or their mistakes or anything like that. And I think more people are interested in working with advisors who are willing to say, I didn't do everything right, and here's what I learned, and here's how I'm going to use that to help you, and things like that.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I agree with that completely.
Well, Phil, is there anything else that you think we should touch on before we wrap up? Is there anything else about your story or your niche or your approach to marketing that you think would be helpful for other advisors to hear before we wrap up?
I think it's important to be yourself whenever you're marketing. I think that's really important. And some people get nervous about, I can't write, or I'm not comfortable on video. Nothing has to be perfect. Like
Mhm.
I've learned that. Like a simple thing that I do for my clients is when it's a birthday, I open up BombBomb and I record like a 10 to 15-second birthday. Happy birthday. I hope you have a wonderful day. Like just little things like that. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It's one take. Once in a while I might cough or something and I have to do a second take, but that's all it is.
Right.
None of this has to be perfect. It's more natural.
Mm.
And I think that's really important. And if you're not comfortable writing, I'll tell you a great tip that I got from listening to Carl Richards. So I mentioned that my blog has a couple different forms. The one that I did at the beginning, when I started a blog every week, like originally, like I would blog occasionally when I had a good idea, be every few weeks. And I
Mhm.
said, I want to really have a regular cadence because I think it helps because I'm that way. I have an easier chance of being top of mind when somebody on my list
Mm.
needs an advisor because I hit their inbox every week. But
Mhm.
I would do, it's called my 5 favorite reads of the week. I still have that, but now like I have an opening to it that's usually life planning related and I still share. And the 5 things that I share, it's usually 1, 3, and 5 are financial and 2 and 4 are not.
Mm.
There anything else that I think is interesting, relevant, whatever. And I did it more. But what Carl said is if you're not comfortable writing, take 3 things that you read this week, put them out there, and write a sentence or 2 about each one. And just share that. It's a great way to start to get that writing muscle to work. You don't have to write a lot that way. And so like when I did it, because I am more comfortable writing, I would do like a paragraph on each, like why I think it's important and a little bit of a summary of it. And I still have those. And like I said, now I have an opener that I write that's usually life planning related. And another form of my blog is long form content. That's sometimes like the one I did. I just went to Omaha I was there when Warren Buffett said he's stepping down. And I wrote about that, and I've written about that experience before. That blog was probably 2,500 to 3,000 words because there's a lot to talk about.
Right.
But usually there are at least 1,500 to 2,000. And then the third form, I actually do, since my blog comes out every Tuesday, I do Tuesday tips, and that's a video. And so I will put a transcript, but I record a video. And so the other thing I think, if you want to start writing, the thing that really helped me is I put it on my calendar. I don't just say I'm going to write this week, but if you look at my calendar, it's there every Friday afternoon. Now I might not do it I think it's there from 2 to 4. I might not do it at exactly that time, but the fact that it's on my calendar, I'm going to do it.
Right.
And that's a really big part of it. And the thing that actually made a difference too, I used to write and edit in the same day. It would take me forever because you can keep reading the same thing. You get too granular and it would take me too long. Now I write on Friday, and then on Monday I go back and edit it. And even though it's 2 separate days, because I start it fresh, I have a different take on it when I read it. I do make some edits, but it's not nearly as many edits as I was making when I was doing everything all in one day. And so it takes me less time. So I have like 2 hours on Friday to write. I put an hour on Monday to finish it off and review, and then it's published. Like just those little tips, I think are really great to get you to get on that schedule and do things. Like that's what I always tell people. I'm like, Phil, how do you do it? How do you write like that? I said, you got to be comfortable writing. I understand, but like that idea to just share a couple articles is a great way to get started. But put time on your calendar to do it, because everything else you're probably doing on your calendar if you're running a business, right? So this is just another part of running your business, and now you've kind of positioned yourself to do it.
I think that is such great advice. It reminds me of some advice that I got when I was a teacher, and we were talking about trying to find time to exercise. And another teacher said, set a meeting with yourself on your calendar. You're busy at the time that you want to exercise. No one else could book that time with you. And then you can go and exercise and not feel guilty about it, or not try to squeeze it in somewhere where you're never going to find time. I think that's so smart. Set a meeting with yourself on your calendar. That's your meeting with your writing.
Yeah.
I love that. So, well, thank you so much for sharing that, Phil. Now, if people want to get in touch with you, they want to learn more about you, where are the best places to do that?
So the best place to find out more about me is to go to my website. My firm is Apprise Wealth Management. So the website is Apprise Wealth, APPRISE wealth.com. If you go there, you can sign up for my blog. You can reach out to me. I'm happy to talk to people if they just want to learn more about the experience, or if somebody that's interested in working with me, whatever the case may be, that can all be done from my website.
Okay, great. Well, I have a link to it in the show notes. And thank you again so much, Phil, for coming on and sharing your story and what you're doing to market your business. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me, Hillary. I appreciated the opportunity and enjoyed the conversation.
Oh, me too. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Finance Marketing Podcast. If you're eager to market your business in a way that feels good and actually gets results, sign up for the Finance Marketing Podcast newsletter in the show notes so you never miss another episode. If you liked what you heard today, please be sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite listening app and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. We'll see you back here next Friday.